The first message left Earth. It was on a cold winter morning in 2087. It carried the hopes of 8 billion people. Scientists had worked for decades to make this moment possible. They had found proof that other civilizations existed among the stars. Now humanity wanted to say hello. The message was simple. It contained mathematics, music, images of Earth, and one question repeated in every language humans knew. We are here. Will you speak with us? 3 months later, a response came. The Galactic Concord, a union of 47 alien species, acknowledged the transmission. Their reply was short and cold. They classified Earth as a Category 7 world. This meant humanity was primitive. They had not yet learned to travel between stars. The Concord had rules about such species. They were to be watched from a distance. Nothing more. Park Doyon was 23 years old when he read that message. He was a young naval officer stationed in Busan. He remembered standing on the deck of his ship, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, beings with technology beyond imagination had looked at humanity and decided they were not worth talking to. We will send more messages, his captain said. They will understand eventually. But Doyon felt something different in his chest. It was not hope. It was the first seed of something harder. Over the next 30 years, Earth sent 847 messages to the stars. Scientists begged for knowledge. Diplomats requested meetings. Artists sent their greatest works. Children sent drawings and songs. Every message carried the same desperate wish. Please see us as equals. The Concord never replied. Not once. Kang Yuna was 12 years old when she first learned about the silence. Her teacher explained that aliens existed, but they did not want to talk to humans. Young Yuna could not understand this. At home, she stayed up late listening to her father's radio. She heard the static between stations and wondered if alien voices were hidden inside. Why won't they talk to us? She asked her mother. Perhaps they are afraid, her mother said. Of us? Her mother smiled sadly. No, child. Perhaps they are afraid we might become something greater than them. Yuna never forgot those words. She grew up and became a scientist. While others tried to build faster ships, she studied something different. She intercepted alien signals and decoded them in secret. She learned their languages. She discovered their secrets. And she began to understand that the Concord was not a family of peaceful civilizations. It was a hierarchy built on power and fear. In 2104, something terrible happened at the Concord's Great Council. The Veltari Empire, a civilization of warriors and conquerors, made a proposal. They wanted to clear Earth. This meant killing all humans and taking the planet's resources. The Veltari argued that humanity was growing too fast. One day they might become a threat. The council discussed this proposal for 6 hours. Some species objected. Ambassador Aurelius, an elderly diplomat from the peaceful Nithori people, spoke against the plan. She said humanity deserved a chance to prove themselves, but most of the council did not care. Earth was far away. Humans were weak. The proposal was not approved that day, but it was not rejected either. It was simply set aside for future discussion. 2 billion human lives were treated like an item on a list. Yoon? Hannah was a young intelligence officer when she decoded the transmission about this meeting. She read the words 3 times. Her hands shook with anger. That night, she made a decision that would change everything. She created a hidden facility deep beneath the mountains of Gangwon Province. She called it the Silent Archive. Its purpose was simple. Learn everything about the galaxy that ignored them. If the universe would not talk to humanity, humanity would listen anyway, Doyen, now a commander. Visited the archive in 2110. He walked through rooms filled with screens and data. Analysts worked day and night, piecing together the politics of alien empires. Maps showed the locations of fleets, trade routes, and military bases. This is impressive, Doyen said to Hannah. This is survival, she replied. They think we are blind because we are silent, but we see everything. On that same visit, Dojen met Dr. Kang Yuna for the first time. She was working on theoretical physics in a small laboratory connected to the archive. Her work was strange and difficult to understand. She talked about folding space like paper, about traveling faster than any Concorde ship ever could. "How long until this is possible?" Do-yeon asked. Yuna looked at him with tired eyes. "Maybe 20 years. Maybe 30. But I will make it work." "Why?" She paused before answering. "Because when we finally move, they must never see us coming." Earth's government continued sending messages until 2120. The last transmission was different from all the others. It was not a plea or a request. It was a statement. "You understand? You have made your position clear. Humanity will no longer seek contact. We wish you peace in your silence." The message was received by a clerk at the Concorde's communication center. He logged it and immediately forgot about it. Another primitive species had given up. This happened all the time. It meant nothing, but beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that did not officially exist, something new was beginning. Admiral Park Do-yoon, Commander Yoon Hana, and Dr. Kang Yuna stood before a council of Earth's most powerful leaders. They presented a plan that would take generations to complete. The plan had no name at first. Someone eventually called it Project Blackout. Its goal was simple but terrifying in scale. Humanity would go silent. They would hide. They would build. And when they finally revealed themselves again, the galaxy would learn. What happens when you ignore a species fighting for survival? The council approved the plan unanimously. There were no celebrations. Every person in that room understood what this meant. They were preparing for a war that might not come in their lifetimes. They were planting seeds that their grandchildren might harvest. Do-yeon walked out of the meeting and looked up at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were going about their lives, secure in their power. They had looked at Earth and seen nothing worth considering. "You made a mistake," he whispered to the darkness. "You will understand this one day, but by then it will be too late." The silence had begun. And in that silence, humanity started to change. The Veltar ships came without warning on a spring morning in 2120. There were 200 of them. Each one larger than any building on Earth. They appeared in the sky like dark clouds, blocking out the sun over 3 continents. Warlord Teskarn commanded the fleet from his flagship. He was a creature of war, born and raised to conquer. To him, Earth was simply another target. The Concorde had finally approved the cleansing operation. Humanity had been silent for too long. Some council members worried this meant they were planning something. Better to end them now while they were still weak. The bombardment began at exactly 9 in the morning, Earth time. Beams of energy fell from the sky like rain. Cities that had stood for centuries vanished in seconds. The sound was so loud that people on the other side of the planet heard it. Park Do-yeon was in Seoul when the attack started. He was visiting his family for the first time in 3 months. His wife, Ji-woo, was cooking breakfast. His 2 children, a boy of 7 and a girl of 5, were playing in the next room. The warning sirens gave them 60 seconds. It was not enough. Do-yeon was thrown through a window by the explosion. When he woke up, his home was gone. His street was gone. Everything he loved in the world had become ash and glass. He searched for 3 days. He found nothing. There was nothing left to find. The bombardment lasted 72 hours. When it ended, 2.3 billion people were dead. Seoul, Beijing, Mumbai, Cairo, London, New York, all of them were craters now. The survivors crawled out of basements and tunnels. Looking at a world that no longer existed, the Galactic Concorde released a statement, expressing deep concern about the Veltar reaction. They formed a committee to discuss possible sanctions. The committee met 4 times over the next 2 years and accomplished nothing. To the galaxy, humanity was already dead. A few million survivors would fade away within a generation. They were wrong. 6 months after the attack, something remarkable happened. Earth's surviving nations stopped fighting each other. Old enemies shook hands. Ancient grudges were forgotten. The Earth Sovereignty Council was formed in a bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. For the first time in history, humanity spoke with one voice. Dr. Kang Yuna emerged from her hidden laboratory with news that changed everything. Her work on space folding technology was nearly complete. She had found a way to travel faster than any ship in the galaxy. But there was more. Her engines left no trace. A human ship could appear anywhere without warning. "How long until we can build a fleet?" asked Commander Yunhana. "Decades," Yuna admitted. "But we have something the Veltari do not expect. We have time. They think we are dying. Let them keep thinking that." Beek Sunwoo was 14 years old during the burning. He lived in a small town in the mountains of Gangwon Province. The Veltari ships passed overhead but did not fire. His town was too small to bother destroying. For 3 days, young Sunwoo watched refugees stream past his home. They were burned, broken, and hollow-eyed. They had lost everything. Some of them simply sat down on the road and stopped moving. On the 4th day, military trucks arrived. Officers in dusty uniforms spoke to the town elders. They were recruiting. Earth needed soldiers. Not for today, but for tomorrow. Sunwoo stepped forward before his parents could stop him. "I want to fight," he said. The officer looked at him. The boy was thin and young. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were steady. "How old are you?" 14. "Come back when you are 16. Sunwoo returned on his 16th birthday. He became the first member of the Revenant Corps, an elite force trained for a war that might come in 30 years or never at all. Admiral Park. Do-yeon threw himself into Project Blackout. He stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night. He stopped visiting the crater where Sol had been. He stopped feeling anything except the cold fire of purpose. Under his leadership, humanity began the greatest secret construction project in history. They built shipyards inside asteroids. They mined resources from moons that had no names. They constructed factories in the dark spaces between planets, where no one would ever look. The first human dreadnought was completed in 2135. It was half a kilometer long. Armed with weapons that Yuna had designed from stolen Concorde technology, it had no name. Do-yeon refused to name any ship until the war was over. "Names are for celebrations," he said. "We will celebrate when we have one." One by one, the ships were built. 10, 50, 100. Each one was hidden in the shadows of the solar system. Each one carried crews who had trained their entire lives for a single purpose. On the surface, Earth seemed to be dying. The few satellites that alien observers occasionally checked showed burned cities and empty farmland. The human population had dropped to 800 million. They looked weak. They looked finished. But beneath the surface, things were different. Underground cities stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Factories ran day and night. Schools trained children not just in reading and mathematics, but in alien languages and starship engineering. Every human who could work, worked. Every human who could fight, trained. Commander Yunhana continued to grow her intelligence network. She developed methods to intercept alien communications without being detected. She recruited agents who spent decades learning to pass as other species. By 2150, she had eyes and ears in every major civilization in the galaxy. "We know their secrets," she told Do-yeon during one of their meetings. "Their fleet movements, their political divisions, their fears. They are not as strong as they pretend to be. The Concorde is held together by fear of each other as much as anything else. And the Veltari." Hannah smiled coldly. "Tescarn sleeps in the same bed every night. I know the codes to his flagship. I know the name of every officer in his fleet. When the time comes, we will take them apart like a puzzle." In 2156, the Galactic Concorde held a special session to discuss the Earth question. Ambassador Aurelius, now very old, asked what had happened to the survivors. "High Arbiter," Morvith waved his hand dismissively. "The humans have entered extinction decline. Their population has dropped below sustainable levels. Within 50 years, they will be gone. Let us speak no more of them," Aurelius wanted to argue. She remembered the message humanity had sent before going silent. There was something in those words that bothered her. Acceptance, yes. But also something else. Something that felt like a door closing. "I do not think we should assume they are finished," she said quietly. Morvith laughed. You worry too much, old friend. The humans were never more than noise. The universe has forgotten them already. Behind the orbit of Jupiter, in a shipyard carved into a frozen moon, Admiral Park Do-yeon watched as the 300th dreadnought slid out of its construction bay. He was 60 years old now. His hair was gray. His face was lined with years of silent work. "How many more do we need?" asked Captain Cho Minho, a young pilot who had risen quickly through the ranks. Do-yeon considered the question. "We have enough ships. Now we need patience. The galaxy has forgotten us. We must make sure they keep forgetting until the moment we want them to remember." Minho nodded. He understood. They all understood. This was not just a military campaign. It was a transformation. Humanity was becoming something new in the darkness. Something that the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would make them regret every moment of their silence. For 33 years, humanity existed as a ghost story. Alien traders sometimes spoke of strange events near the Sol system. Ships would enter the region and disappear. Their emergency signals would cut off mid-transmission. Search parties found nothing except empty space and silence. Scientists blamed spatial anomalies. Captains warned their crews to avoid that sector. Nobody connected these events to the dead planet called Earth. Captain Cho Minho led the Ghost Squadron. They were the best pilots humanity had ever produced. Their ships were small, fast, and completely invisible to alien sensors. Their job was simple: go everywhere, see everything, and never be seen. Minho was 32 years old when he received his first deep space mission. Admiral Park Do-yeon gave him the orders personally. "I want you to map the Veltari home system," Do-yeon said. "Every defense platform, every fleet position, every orbital station. Can you do this without being detected?" Minho smiled. "Sir, they won't even know we exist." The mission took 8 months. Minho and his squadron slipped through the Veltari defenses like water through sand. They photographed military bases from kilometers away. They recorded communications using equipment that Dr. Kang Yuna had designed specifically for this purpose. They came close enough to Warlord Teskarn's flagship to count the windows on its bridge. When Minho returned to human space, brought back enough intelligence to plan an entire invasion. But more importantly, he brought back something else: proof that the Veltari were not invincible. Their security was lazy. Their patrols followed predictable patterns. They had become comfortable in their power. "You're sleeping," Minho reported to the council. "They have been at the top so long that they have forgotten how to be afraid." Commander Yunhana expanded her intelligence network with every passing year. She had agents on 100 worlds now. Some were humans who had undergone genetic modification to pass as aliens. Others were members of oppressed species who hated the Concord and were willing to help its enemies. A few were simply people who could be bought. Through these agents, Hannah learned secrets that would have shocked the galaxy. She discovered that High Arbiter Morvith had stolen his position through blackmail and assassination. She found evidence that the Veltari were planning to eventually conquer their own allies. She uncovered corruption, fear, and hatred hidden beneath the Concord's peaceful surface. "They are not united," she told Do-yeon during one of their weekly meetings. "They are a collection of frightened empires, each one waiting for the others to show weakness. One strong push, and they will turn on each other. When will we be ready for that push?" Hannah thought for a moment. "Our fleet is complete. Our intelligence is perfect. The only question is timing. We need to strike when they least expect it. We need to make them understand that we could have attacked at any moment for the past decade, but we chose to wait. Why does that matter? Because it will terrify them more than any weapon. They will realize that we were among them all along. Every moment they felt safe, we were watching. Every time they laughed at the memory of Earth, we were listening. That knowledge will break them." Ambassador Aurelius could not sleep. She was very old now, past 200 years by her species counting. Most Netheri, her age, spent their days in peaceful meditation. But Aurelius could not find peace. She kept thinking about the humans. Something was wrong. She had lived long enough to understand how civilizations died. They did not go quietly. They sent desperate messages. They begged for help. They fought until the end. But humanity had simply ... stopped. One day they were there, sending hopeful signals to the stars. The next day, silence. Aureli's requested access to the monitoring data from the Sol system. What she found disturbed her. The satellites that watched Earth had not been updated in 20 years. The last images showed burned cities and empty fields. But they also showed something else, if you looked carefully. Patterns of movement that suggested organization. Heat signatures in places where no buildings appeared. She brought her concerns to the Concord Council. High Arbiter Morveth listened politely and then dismissed her. "You are seeing ghosts, old friend. The humans are gone. Accept this and find peace in your final years. And if I am right, if they are still there, still watching us," Morveth laughed, "then we will deal with them as we've dealt with them before. They are primitives, Ambassador. They could have 1,000 years, and they would never match our technology." Aureli's left the council chamber with a heavy heart. She did not share Morvath's confidence. She had seen the look in human eyes during her brief contact with their diplomats decades ago. It was not the look of a species that would accept extinction quietly. General Sun Wu was 47 years old when he completed the Reaper Protocol. It was a new approach to warfare, designed specifically for humanity's situation. The goal was not destruction. It was demonstration. "We have the power to kill billions," Sun Wu explained to his officers. "But that is not our purpose. We want them to see what we could do, and then see us choose not to do it. We want them to know that we are better than they were." The Reaper Protocol trained soldiers in precision strikes. Every operation was planned to minimize civilian casualties. Every target was selected for maximum psychological impact. The message was clear. Humanity could destroy you, but they choose to show mercy. Dr. Kong Yuna spent her later years perfecting the Phantom Drive. Her original design was revolutionary, but she continued to improve it. By 2180, human ships could travel across the galaxy in hours instead of days. They could appear and disappear without leaving any trace. "We are faster than them now," she told Do Yen. "We are invisible to them. And thanks to Commander Hannah, we know more about their own civilizations than they do. There is nothing left to prepare." Do-Yun was 73 years old. His hair was white, and his body was worn from decades of work. But his mind was as sharp as ever, and his determination had only grown stronger. "Assemble the full council," he said. "It is time to plan the final operation." The council met in a chamber deep beneath the lunar surface. Holographic displays showed the entire galaxy, with every Concord fleet marked in red. Green dots represented human ships. There were thousands of them, hidden in places the aliens had never thought to look. Admiral Do-Yan stood at the center of the room. Around him sat the finest military minds humanity had produced. Captain Minho, General Sun Wu, Commander Hannah, Dr. Yuna, and dozens of others who had dedicated their lives to this moment. "I have spent 50 years preparing for this day," Do-Yan began. "Many of you have spent your entire lives training for what comes next. Some of us remember the burning. Some of us were born after, but all of us carry the same purpose." He touched a control, and the display changed. It now showed 200 strategic points across the galaxy, each one marked with a human ship symbol. "We will strike everywhere at once, not to destroy, but to demonstrate. Every Concord civilization will see their defenses fail simultaneously. They will understand that we could have done this at any time. They will know that we chose to wait until we could win completely." Commander Hannah stepped forward. "I have prepared information packages for every major species. They will receive the full record of what the Concord did to Earth, including evidence that the Council knew about the Veltari attack in advance and did nothing. Their alliance will not survive this knowledge." "What about the Veltari?" asked General Sun Wu. Du-Yun's expression hardened. "Warlord Tescarn will be captured alive. He will face justice. Real justice, not the Concord's version. The galaxy will see that humanity does not simply kill its enemies. We are better than that." The council discussed details for several more hours. When they finally adjourned, every officer knew their role. The attack would happen in 30 days. After a century of silence, humanity would speak again. Do-Yan stood alone in the chamber after everyone else had left. He thought about his wife and children, killed so long ago that their faces were becoming hard to remember. He thought about the billions who had died in the burning. He thought about the countless messages that Earth had sent, begging for acknowledgement. Tomorrow, the galaxy would finally acknowledge humanity. But it would not be the acknowledgement they had once hoped for. It would be something far more powerful. It would be fear. The attack began at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Across 200 star systems, human ships appeared from nothing. There was no warning, no detection. One moment, the space around military bases and fleet formations was empty. The next moment, it was filled with vessels that should not exist. On the Veltari homeworld, defense officers stared at their screens in confusion. Their instruments showed massive ships where nothing had been seconds before. The ships matched no known design. They broadcast no identification. They simply hung in space, silent and terrible. "What are they?" demanded the commander of orbital defense. Before anyone could answer, the lights went out. Dr. Kang Yuna had spent 30 years preparing the cascade. It was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a virus planted piece by piece in the software of every major Concord system. It had spread through trade networks, diplomatic channels, and routine updates. It had waited dormant in the heart of their technology. Now it woke up across the galaxy. 94% of Concord military vessels lost power. Their weapons went offline. Their engines stopped. Their communication systems fell silent. Ships that had dominated the stars for centuries became drifting metal boxes. Helpless and blind, Captain Cho Minho led the Ghost Squadron toward Warlord Teskarn's flagship. The massive vessel hung in orbit above the Veltari capital. Its lights flickering as emergency systems struggled to maintain basic functions. "All fighters maintain formation," Minho ordered. "We are going in quiet. No weapons fire unless absolutely necessary." The boarding operation took 43 minutes. Human soldiers in advanced armor cut through airlocks and moved through corridors that had never seen an invader. The Veltari crew tried to fight back, but their weapons did not work. The cascade had disabled everything except life support. Minho reached the bridge first. He walked through the doors to find Warlord Teskarn standing alone, surrounded by the bodies of his unconscious guards. The alien warlord was enormous, covered in thick scales and natural armor. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had ordered the death of billions. Now he looked at the humans standing before him and could not understand what he was seeing. "Who are you?" Teskarn demanded. Minho removed his helmet. "My name is Cho Minho. I am a citizen of Earth. You killed 2.3 billion of my people 16 years ago. I am here to take you to answer for that crime." "Earth." Teskarn laughed, but there was fear in his voice. "Earth is dead. We destroyed it," Minho said quietly. "You burned it. There is a difference. And now you will learn what grew in the ashes." At the exact moment Teskarn was captured, Admiral Park Do-Yeon began his broadcast. It was transmitted on every frequency, in every language, to every inhabited world in the galaxy. His face appeared on screens in council chambers and private homes, in military bases and trading posts. "People of the Galactic Concord," Do-Yeon began. "My name is Admiral Park Do-Yeon of the Earth Sovereignty Fleet. 100 years ago, humanity reached out to you in peace. We asked only for acknowledgement. You gave us silence." Images appeared behind him. The burning cities, the crying children, the mass graves. 69 years ago, the Veltari Empire attacked our world without warning. They killed 2.3 billion people. The Concord, which claims to stand for peace and justice, did nothing. You called it an internal matter. You expressed concern and formed committees. Then you forgot about us. The images changed, showing human shipyards and factories, fleets of vessels that dwarfed anything the Concord had ever built. Now you assumed we were dying. You were wrong. While you celebrated your power, we built. While you fought your small political battles, we grew stronger. While you looked at the stars with arrogance, we watched you from the shadows. Admiral Doyan leaned forward, his old eyes burning with cold fire. As I speak, human forces have disabled 94% of your military capability. We have captured Warlord Tescarn. We have occupied key positions in every major system. You did not see us coming because you never bothered to look. You ignored our silence, and now you will live with the consequences. He paused, letting the words sink in. But I did not contact you to threaten destruction. I contacted you to offer a choice. Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want revenge. We want justice. We want acknowledgement. We want to be treated as equals. Those species that work with us will be treated fairly. Those that continue to oppose us will be defeated. And those who committed crimes against humanity will face trial. This is not negotiable. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings sat in stunned silence. General Beek Sunwoo led the ground assault on the Veltari capital. His soldiers landed in the heart of the city, their ships descending through morning clouds. The streets were empty except for emergency vehicles and frightened civilians. Sunwoo had trained his entire life for this moment. He remembered watching refugees flee past his childhood home. He remembered the hollow eyes of people who had lost everything. Now he walked through the capital of the empire that had caused all that suffering. A Veltari child ran across the street, crying for her parents. She stopped when she saw the armored humans frozen with terror. Sunwoo knelt down so he was at her eye level. He removed his helmet and spoke in her language, which he had learned years ago. Do not be afraid. We are not here to hurt you. We are here to end the war. He ordered a soldier to take the child to a safe zone. Similar scenes played out across the city. Human forces were under strict orders, no civilian casualties. Every Veltari citizen was to be protected. The galaxy would see that humanity was not like its enemies. The Veltari government surrendered for hours later. They had no choice. Their military was paralyzed. Human soldiers occupied their capital, and their great warlord was a prisoner on a human ship, awaiting trial for crimes that the entire galaxy was now learning about. High Arbiter Morvith sat in his council chamber as human soldiers walked through the doors. He had tried to flee, but every ship in his fleet was dead. He had tried to call for help, but every communication system was controlled by the enemy. He was the most powerful being in the galaxy, and he could do nothing. Admiral Doyan entered the chamber and stood before the alien leader. The two studied each other in silence. How? Morvith finally whispered, "You were nothing. A primitive species on a dying planet? How did you do this?" Doyan did not smile. He felt no joy in this moment, only the heavy weight of decades finally reaching their end. "You looked at us and saw nothing," he said. "That was your first mistake. You stopped looking. That was your last. What will you do now? Kill us. Enslave us. Become the new masters of the galaxy?" Doyan shook his head slowly. "We are not you. We never were. We do not want your empire or your council. We want something simpler." "What?" "We want you to remember. Every time you look at the stars, you will remember this day. You will remember that you had the chance to welcome us as friends, and you chose to ignore us. You will remember that you could have stopped the Veltari, and you chose to do nothing. And you will live with that memory for the rest of your lives." The day the stars went dark lasted 16 hours. When it ended, the Galactic Order had been shattered. The Concord's military power was broken. Its political authority was destroyed. Its leaders were prisoners, but humanity had not conquered. They had demonstrated. They had shown the galaxy what they had become. And then they had offered peace. Ambassador Aurelis watched the events unfold from her home on the Nithori homeworld. Tears streamed down her aged face. She had warned them. She had told them that humanity's silence was unnatural. No one had listened now. They would all have to live with what their arrogance had created. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Admiral Park Do-yan finally allowed himself to feel something other than cold determination. The war was not over. There was still much to do. But the impossible part was done. They had made the galaxy look, and the galaxy would never forget what it saw. The Trial of Warlord. Tescarn was broadcast to every inhabited world. It lasted 17 days. Witnesses spoke about the burning of Earth. Survivors described watching their families disappear in fire. Scientists presented evidence that the Concord Council had known about the attack in advance and chosen to do nothing. Tescarn sat in silence through most of it. The creature who had ordered the death of billions seemed smaller somehow. Ordinary even, when stripped of his fleet and his power. On the final day, he was asked if he had anything to say. "I did what any strong species would do," he said. "The weak exist to be conquered. This is the nature of the universe." The human judge, a woman named Iso Minji, who had lost 3 children in the burning, looked at him without hatred. Only sadness. "You are wrong," she said simply, "and your sentence will prove it." Tescarn was not executed. He was sentenced to live the rest of his life on Earth, in a small facility overlooking the crater where Sol had once stood. Every day, he would watch humans rebuild what he had destroyed. Every day, he would see children playing in parks built on the ashes of the dead. The sentence confused the galaxy. They had expected revenge. They had expected humanity to become what the Veltari had been. Instead, they received something far more unsettling: mercy that they could not understand. Admiral Park. Doyen retired 3 months after the war ended. He had given 60 years of his life to preparing for this moment, and now that it was done, he did not know what to do with himself. He returned to Korea, to the place where his family had died. The crater was being transformed into a memorial garden. Trees were being planted. Flowers were growing where fire had burned everything to glass. Doyen planted a tree himself, a small cherry blossom in the exact spot where his home had stood. He did not speak as he worked. He did not need to. The tree would grow and bloom for centuries. That was enough. Commander Yunhana refused retirement. Instead, she created a new organization called the Watchers. Its purpose was simple: humanity would never be surprised again. Her agents remained scattered across the galaxy, listening and watching. But now, they did it openly. Every species knew that human eyes were everywhere. "We were caught off guard once," Hannah said in her only public interview. "It cost us 2 billion lives. We will not make that mistake again." The Galactic Concord collapsed within 2 years. Without military power to hold it together, the old hatreds and rivalries between species erupted. 17 separate factions formed from the wreckage. They fought small wars over territory and resources. They blamed each other for the disaster that had befallen them all. Humanity offered no assistance. The human sovereignty zone was established with clear borders, and Earth closed itself to outside visitors. Trade was conducted through automated stations. Diplomatic requests were reviewed and mostly denied. The galaxy that had ignored humanity was now ignored in return. Some species resented this. They called humans arrogant, hypocritical. They said that Earth had become exactly what it claimed to hate. But others understood. Humanity had been burned by trust. They had reached out in friendship and received silence. They had asked for help and watched their children die. Now they were protecting themselves the only way they knew how. By keeping the universe at a distance, Ambassador Aurelis was different from the others. She was the only alien who had ever spoken for humanity in the Concord Council. She was the only one who had warned them about the danger of ignorance. When the borders closed, she sent a personal message to Admiral Doyen. "I tried to help your people," she wrote. "I failed. But I never forgot you. I hope that counts for something." 3 weeks later, she received a response. It contained a single sentence: "Come to Earth." Aurelis arrived on a spring morning, 60 years after the burning. She was very old now. Her scales faded and her movements slow. A human escort brought her to a university in the rebuilt city of Seoul. Students stopped to stare at her. Most had never seen an alien in person. Dr. Kong Yuna met her at the entrance. The scientist was 90 years old, but still sharp, still working. "Welcome to Earth," Yuna said. "We have been expecting you. Why am I here? Aurelius asked. Because you remembered us when everyone else forgot. Admiral Doyen wanted you to have a choice. You can return to your people, or you can stay here. We are offering you a home. Aurelius looked around at the campus, at the young humans walking to classes, at the city rising from the ashes of destruction. She thought about her own people, who had done nothing when Earth burned. She thought about the long years of guilt she had carried. I will stay, she said quietly. If you will have me, Una smiled. You are the first alien professor at Seoul National University. Welcome to the faculty. Captain Cho Minho could not rest. The war was over, but he felt restless on Earth. He had spent too many years moving through the darkness between stars. He did not know how to stay in one place. He proposed a new mission to the Council: exploration beyond known space. There were regions of the galaxy that even the Concorde had never mapped. Perhaps somewhere out there, humanity could find species that were different. Species that would welcome them as friends from the beginning. We have spent 100 years looking at this galaxy, Minho said. Maybe it is time to find a new one. The Council approved his request. Minho assembled a fleet of 50 ships and set course for the unknown. His last transmission before leaving mapped space was simple. We are done fighting the past. We are going to find the future. General Baek Sun-woo became the guardian of Earth's borders. He was old now, covered in scars from battles that most people had already forgotten. But he still reported for duty every day. He still reviewed every request for entry into human space. Most requests were denied. Merchants wanted access to human technology. Scientists wanted to study the Phantom Drive. Politicians wanted alliances. Sun-woo turned them all away with the same response. We are not ready to trust you yet. Perhaps in time, but one day, a different kind of request arrived. A small ship appeared at the border carrying a young alien diplomat. She represented a coalition of species that had been devastated by the wars following the Concorde's collapse. They were not asking for technology or alliances. They were asking for help, food, medicine, the basic necessities of survival. Sun-woo reviewed the request in his office. His aides stood nearby, waiting. They ignored us for 100 years, the aide reminded him. When we were dying, they did nothing. Sun-woo looked at the diplomat's image on his screen. She was young and frightened. Her people were desperate. They had nowhere else to turn. He thought about the burning. He thought about his childhood, watching refugees stream past his home. He thought about the hollow eyes of people who had lost everything. And he thought about who humanity had chosen to become. Bring her in, he said, sir. Bring her in, Sun-woo repeated. We are not them. We never were. The diplomat was granted entry. Her people received aid. Word spread across the galaxy. The humans had shown mercy. Not because they had forgotten what was done to them, but because they remembered exactly what kind of species they had refused to become. 50 years passed. Earth flourished. The memorial gardens grew thick with trees planted by survivors and their children. The underground cities were abandoned as the surface became safe again. A new generation grew up knowing the burning only as history. As stories told by grandparents, Ambassador Aurelius lived out her final years teaching alien history at Seoul National University. She died peacefully at the age of 300, surrounded by human friends who had become her family. Her last words were, "Tell them I was wrong. Tell them humanity is not primitive. They are what the rest of us should have been." Admiral Park Do-yeon died at 91, sitting beneath the cherry tree he had planted on the site of his old home. His last visitor was a great-granddaughter he had never met, a young naval officer who reminded him of himself. "Did we do the right thing?" she asked, showing mercy to the ones who hurt us. Do-yeon looked at the tree, at its pink blossoms falling softly in the wind. He thought about his wife and children, lost so long ago. He thought about the rage that had driven him for decades. And he thought about the universe that humanity had built, a place where mercy meant more than revenge. They expected us to become monsters, he said. We refused. That is the victory that matters. Remember that, child. Remember what we chose to be? Silence continued, but it was different now. It was not the silence of a species being ignored. It was the silence of a species that had found peace. Humanity had proven its strength. Now it was proving something harder, its wisdom. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, Captain Shomenho's fleet continued to search for new horizons. Behind them, Earth glowed blue and green, a small world that had changed the history of a universe. They had been ignored. They had been burned. They had risen from the ashes and made the stars tremble. And in the end, they had chosen to be kind. That was humanity's greatest victory. Not the weapons or the technology or the conquest. The simple, powerful choice to be better than those who had wronged them. The galaxy would remember this for 1,000 years. And perhaps, eventually, they would learn to do the same.